Colonia Juarez, a small Mormon village in Old Mexico. It's an inconspicuous spot on the map of northern Chihuahua. As you approach this site, you may be surprised even to find a settlement there. Yet few towns of its size are better known. People have carried memories of this place to all parts of the world. One of the memories they carry is for the fruit grown here. Their apples, pears, and peaches rival the best fruit grown anywhere. And from here, they also carry away characteristics of courage, industry, faith, and leadership. Righteous saints are as abundant here as fruit crops.
One of the primary reasons for the colonies, I feel, is for the leadership that has been developed there.
You'll find people from the Mormon colonies in all parts of the world in leadership positions.
If there's any one symbol of this place, of the great things the Lord has accomplished with very small means, it is the Juarez Academy. Through 100 years of contrasts, poverty and industry, revolution and order, success and setbacks, this place has served as one of the Lord's seed beds for learning and leadership.
The school is an integral part of the community here. It has to be in a small community like this. It's a cultural center. It's, of course, the education center. It's the activity center for sports. So it's a very important part of this community and the neighboring communities.
My dad sent me down here because he had the Juarez Academy in his mind. He thought there would be no school in the United States that would equal the Juarez Academy.
Well, I think the Academy has an influence on everybody, not only just members and non-members or males or females, but the influence of the Academy is great, and it is a great place to produce leaders.
From the beginning, the destiny of the community has been inseparably connected to the progress of this school. Today, however, little remains to tell of the hardship and suffering of the early days.
They settled on land that they thought was theirs. They built their homes along the river on dugouts, and they made a brush building for holding church and parties and whatnot. And it looked like they were building to stay. They were in doubts all the time about whether they were on the right land or not. And when they found out that they were on the wrong land and had to move up into this narrow valley, rocky valley, the people were appalled. They thought, how in the world can we make a living up in this narrow valley and rocky valley? So the authorities, who were here in charge, called a meeting, and I think through the inspiration of the Lord, they were able to change these people's minds and make them feel better about moving up into this narrow valley.
They opened their eyes on a changed world. Problems shrunk. Barriers now seem to be the means of gaining new strength.
On this place we will build our church and schoolhouse, where eyes can be lifted to the learning and the light that it will bring. Here will be the co-op store, the public square and the park. Trees will form windbreaks. What's more, it's ours, for no one will want it badly enough to push us off. On it, we'll build a society managed by our own hands. Brotherhood will be founded on honesty and regard for the rights of others. Joy and happiness, the natural outgrowth of righteous living, will be the goal toward which we all will strive. Moses Thatcher.
It was prophetically established. It was prophetically nourished and gendered and maintained, and Obviously, it has a great spirit about it.
A major concern was the lack of water. Colonists held a special fast and prayer day to ask the Lord for additional water. Then it happened. On May 3rd, at about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, an earthquake hit.
The meaning of the earthquake to the saints here, they felt like it was a blessing from God because it opened water fissures in the mountains that brought more water down the river. And since the saints were told to move up here, they had the first chance at the waters that came down the river. And it doubled or tripled the amount of water that we had here after the earthquake.
When God visited Elijah on the mountain, he sent earthquake, fire, and whirlwind. But he was not in any of these things. This time was different. God spoke to them through the earthquake. He was in this place.
Well, I think the secret of it is the people that live here. The people are just genuine, God-fearing people. They're religious people. They live their religion. They're honest people. They believe in and they practice what they believe in.
They always were very interested in education, and before they built their own homes, they built schoolhouses and got their children started. The teacher at that time was Annie Romney, and she was an excellent teacher, they say.
And she started school. They had teaching in a little cave, and they used all the books they could find, and many people have since said that that was the best training they ever had. In fact, Brother Franklin Harris, who was later BYU president, said he had never had a teacher who taught him as much as Annie Romney.
She had no blackboard, no pen, no ink, no paper, no formal training. Yet without adequate supplies, she achieved excellent results. The sacrifice they made on behalf of their children can't be fully appreciated without a knowledge of just how humble they were. One daughter of a settler who had 2 wives recalled,
"When I was young, we were so poor. My 2 mothers had only 3 dresses between them, and so each borrowed the extra dress whenever they needed to wash the one that they would normally wear. And I remember how there was one bacon rind that would be passed around the whole neighborhood to grease all the bread pans. My brother Edmund heard a man ask Joe James one time, he was a man who had 4 wives and many children, how he could feed so many mouths. James replied that he would feed everyone dried peaches for breakfast. He would give them a drink of water for dinner, and then let the peaches swell in their stomach for supper."
The great secret of this place is that even when they couldn't put adequate food on the table or shoes on their children's feet, they educated their minds and their souls. What material things they lacked seemed to increase their need to supply the spiritual elements of education and character development.
If a teacher is living the gospel of Jesus Christ and is trying to teach with the Spirit, then a lot of the other problems that we normally deal with begin to be taken care of.
The Juarez Academy and its success over the years really has been the underpinning of the gospel.
In 1895, the colonies in the area were organized into the Colonia Juarez Stake, with Anthony W. Ivins as stake president. He also was a man of great vision. He engaged an energetic young man as principal. Guy C. Wilson, a law student from the Brigham Young Academy, hired and trained teachers and removed handicaps under which the teachers struggled. They added a 2-story addition to the meeting house that tripled the classroom space. Yet when even the new building became overcrowded, President Ivins called a meeting with patrons of the school to discuss the need for expansion.
I'm willing to donate 5 acres of ground across the river for the purpose of building a new school. It's a place for my dreams to materialize and a chance to let you see the picture I've had in my mind ever since my first visit to the town. I see a building where our young women can learn domestic arts. I see another building where our young men can study agriculture
He helped them visualize a town growing to meet the educational and cultural needs of its people in every way. Those present at the meeting jumped at the chance to contribute. The bids came so fast they couldn't be recorded. Professor Wilson called a halt to the proceedings. In a voice touched with emotion, he begged them to take their turn and give the clerk a chance to record the donations. The meeting closed 2 hours later. Every person pledged donations for cash or labor. Personal sacrifice counted little against the educational advantages they desired for their children. The grand total of pledges was $12,000. With squared shoulders and shining eyes, they walked out, knowing that President Ivan's dream could begin to come true.
There is unity in every deed, not only at school, but also at the church, in daily living, in the community. You can feel the spirit throughout the community, the sense of brotherhood, this desire to improve and to serve.
The kids are taught in their home. Their parents teach them the things that they're supposed to do and what they're supposed to know. This principle is reinforced at church, and it's reinforced once again in the school.
These colonies are a great place to raise your children because they don't stand a chance of being bad. Because if the parents aren't watching them, they're off someplace else, they always run into the bishop or to the young men's presidency or to one of the school teachers, and they're all good members of the church. You have the whole town that helps you raise your children.
As the school flourished, the community grew. Their progress was viewed as extraordinary. In just a few years, they had built attractive homes. Soon there was a flour mill, a lumber mill, a harness and shoe shop where shoes were made for the children. It was ideally suited for growing fruit. The place that the early settlers feared was unsuitable had indeed been prepared by the Lord. This was another witness to them that God was in this place and that He works in mysterious ways. In 1912, the future looked prosperous. The graduating class had 12 graduates. Great expectations were expressed by Superintendent Guy C. Wilson in a speech to the student body.
We have never faced a year so full of promise. Good crops, good employment, good health, a strong faculty. Experience has proven that but little money is needed if you will have the will and determination to work. We should all support our home institution and make it the pride of our people and a credit to Mexico.
Then came the revolution. And the exodus of most of the saints.
All the women and children and the young folks up to about 14 years old went out on the trains. And Colonial Juarez went out on the trains, and the mountain colonies the same thing.
This was the cruelest blow. They had learned to see and accept other setbacks, the move to the present town site, the divine purpose of the earthquake, but they struggled to see how the Lord could use the revolution to advance His purposes. Looking back, we see the colonies as a seedbed for producing righteous saints, and the revolution as the means of transplanting them all over the church.
5 of us went to the academy. Of those, there were 3 boys and 2 girls. 2 of us have served as, I have served as mission president, and presently my brother is serving as mission president. All 3 of us have served as bishops sometime or another.
Of the 9 boys, 1 boy died. Of the 10 boys, 1 boy died. Of the 9 that are living, 6 have been bishops, 3 stake presidents, 2 mission presidents, and 2 temple presidents. The others have been on the high councils or bishoprics.
John Watson's Dictionary, 1755 edition, defines a seminary as the ground where anything is sown to be afterwards transplanted. Also a place of education from whence scholars are transplanted into life. At the Academy one day, this young man received a pamphlet with a question printed on the cover. What would Jesus do? He pondered that question and adopted it as a way of life. Then the Revolution transplanted young Marion G. Romney into the world. The light and learning he gained at the Academy guided him as a student, as a missionary, and a lawyer. He became the first man to be called as an assistant to the 12. Subsequently, he was called to the Quorum of 12 Apostles and the First Presidency. After the Exodus, Camilla Eyring became a teacher. She married Spencer W. Kimball, who eventually became the president of the church. Young Franklin Harris became the president of Brigham Young University. George Romney became the president of American Motors and later became the governor of the state of Michigan. While other transplanted colonists didn't become general authorities or governors or prominent women, they became true and faithful church members, local church leaders, loyal citizens, and stalwart mothers and fathers. As important as the contribution of the many who were scattered was the contribution of the few who stayed.
When the people returned after the Exodus, it was such a small group in comparison with those that left. And yet they were determined to keep the Academy going.
If it had not been for Juarez Academy, most of the people in the colonies would have left and gone back to the States to live.
That has been the glue that has held the colonies together for as many years as they have been there.
In the early 1920s, peaceful operation of business was again possible. Tragically, none of the town's businesses had any life left in them. More tragic than ever, the people were without hope. Years of unrest left them drained of morale. In 1922, Ernest Young, S.E. McClellan, and Lucian Meacham were called to the bishopric. They also taught at the Academy. They applied the same optimism and progressive attitudes of the school to the problems of the town.
Brothers and sisters, it is one thing to found a colony, and quite another thing to save it. But let us not lose heart. We have in our veins the blood of the best pioneer stock in the church. We are the offspring of men who established a mission in this land, a mission that many predict will be abandoned, but which we, if faithful, will be the means of preserving. Remember always, we are no worse off than what we think we lose. That which we lack in material things will be made up to us in spiritual benefits. Bishop Ernest Young.
It's ironic that they were saved economically by the young fruit trees which had matured during the years of unrest. And they were saved spiritually by the young students and teachers who had matured during the same period.
This academy is a very special place, a chosen place, because it has taught us love, which we all should share, faith, which we all should have, and a testimony which grows on a daily basis for every one of us.
The common cause is that we're trying to build testimonies in the children that come out of that school system.
I've noticed that the young people don't say, if I go on a mission. From little primary children, they say, when I go on a mission.
We have what we call the missionary wind sprints. We have a normal amount of 10, 100-yard wind sprints at the end of each practice, or 15, or wherever the tongue will hang out the best. And when they get just as tired as they can be, we go with 4 more for the mission. We try to make it so tough on them out here that nothing they encounter in the mission field will be even half as tough.
In a zone leaders meeting, I was one of 14 zone leaders in the mission, and the mission president asked us where we were from. 10 of us were from the colonies. We'd been friends together, we went to school together, we went to seminary together, and there we were together on a mission as zone leaders.
The students should understand that an eternal truth, regardless of the subject, will always be true, and it will help the student's progress through his whole life. Whether it pertains to the gospel, or to mathematics, or chemistry, in any discipline where it applies, the student will grasp the true knowledge, and thus he will be able to obtain the same glory that God has.
The Academy has a very positive atmosphere. The Spirit of the Lord can be perceived. And I feel that the Lord is trying to tell us something. He's trying to tell us, do more. Lengthen our stride. Because, and I say it again, we have the Spirit here. And for that reason, you experience the drive, the desire to raise outstanding young people.
I've always felt that the school and this community were one of the best examples of the gospel in action. It produces what the gospel is supposed to produce in people's lives.
We were interested in these students using all of their talents. We had 27 extracurricular activities after school.
We've had a band in the music department.
If you were moderately good, you got to be on the basketball team, or you could play baseball.
I learned to sew and cook in home economics class. I learned to work with wood in the wood shop class.
We had lots of plays, operettas.
We learned social skills also.
With all the activities that we had at the school, it was really, there was something for everyone.
The traditions of excellence that the pioneer stock brought to us, I feel are still with us. Some of the younger generation don't recognize them, but their leaders do.
We're really just kind of on the brink of some great things here. Some great things have happened in the Academy. Some great people have gone out of the Academy. Great leadership has gone out of here. But I personally feel that we're just kind of on the opening of a new era. Our student body now is comprised of about 85% Native Mexican students.
These are a people of promise and a people of growth, and whatever the Lord has in mind for it, it will be a glorious future.
I think the Academy can play a great role in the development of Mexico, and I think it has at this point. If it can produce leaders that are honest, leaders that want to change the world, leaders that want to change the nation, this is the place where they can be produced.
We are ignited, we are ablaze, burning with the fire of light. We have invited you to this place to step into the circle of light. We are carriers of the light, come to shatter the darkness. We have power to pierce the night, carriers of the light.
I feel so much the influence of the Lord in the work that we're doing here, that I know that there is a future for this area and for this school.
Standing together, shining our light, there is no stopping us now. Chasing the shadows into the night, overcoming darkness and doubts. We are carriers of the light, come to shatter the darkness. We have power to pierce the night, carriers of the light.
Colonial Juarez is a place that I'll never forget. It's my hometown. When I come over that hill and look in that valley, it still thrills me.